Picture this. You're standing on a stage. You're wearing a crown. The whole school is applauding. The boy you never thought would look at you is holding your hand. For the first time in your entire miserable existence, you feel beautiful, accepted, normal. Then a bucket tips. Pig's blood, gallons of it, drenches you from head to toe. The applause turns to laughter. The dream becomes a nightmare. And in that moment, with the blood dripping down your face and the mockery echoing in your ears, something inside you breaks. Not just breaks, explodes. Welcome to the story of Carrie White, the girl who went to prom and burned the world down. But here's what most people miss. Carrie White didn't start as a monster. She was made into one cruelty at a time, one humiliation at a time, one moment of abuse stacked upon another until there was nothing left but rage and power and the burning need to make them all pay. This isn't just a story about a girl with telekinetic powers. This is a story about what happens when you torture someone until they can't be human anymore. And by the end of this video, you're going to understand why Carrie White is both the victim and the villain, the abused and the avenger, the most tragic figure Stephen King ever created. Because the real horror isn't what Carrie did at the prom. It's how many people had to fail her, how many cruelties had to be inflicted to transform a frightened girl into a goddess of destruction. The prison called home. The mother who weaponized God. Before we can understand Carrie, we need to understand her mother, Margaret White, religious fanatic, abuser, the woman who turned salvation into torture and twisted scripture into chains. Margaret doesn't just believe in God, she believes in a God of wrath, punishment, and eternal damnation. A God who sees sin in everything, especially in women, especially in the female body, especially in her own daughter. In Margaret's worldview, Carrie's very existence is evidence of sin. She was conceived in what Margaret considers a moment of weakness, a brief surrender to her husband's lustful demands, and Carrie has been paying for that moment every single day of her life. Think about what it means to grow up being told you're a living sin, that your body is shameful, that your thoughts are evil, that every natural impulse, every human desire, every moment of wanting to be normal is a pathway to hell. Margaret doesn't just discipline Carrie, she tortures her psychologically, spiritually, physically. The prayer closet. Let those words sink in. Margaret has a closet in their home, dark, cramped, suffocating, where she locks Carrie whenever she perceives transgression. And in Margaret's world, everything is transgression. A question is defiance. A thought is rebellion. The crime of being a teenage girl is grounds for imprisonment. Carrie is forced to kneel on the hard floor, sometimes for hours, praying to a God who supposedly loves her, but apparently wants her to suffer. The closet is filled with religious iconography, a terrifying statue of Saint Sebastian pierced with arrows, crucifixes, images of hell and damnation. It's not a place of worship, it's a torture chamber designed to break a child's spirit. After the blood comes the boys, like sniffing dogs, grinning and slobbering, Margaret hisses at her daughter. In her mind, menstruation isn't biology, it's the mark of Eve's curse, the beginning of sin, the moment when her daughter becomes a vessel for evil. This isn't religion, this is abuse wearing a cross. Carrie grows up in a house with no television, no radio, no contact with the outside world except school, no friends, no birthday parties, no Christmas celebrations, too pagan. No normal childhood whatsoever, just Margaret's ranting about sin, her violent mood swings, her suffocating presence that turns their home into a prison with Jesus-themed bars. The cruelest part? Margaret convinces Carrie that this is love, that this torture is for her own good, that her mother is saving her soul by destroying her spirit. So when Carrie arrives at school each day, she's not just socially awkward, she's been systematically programmed to hate herself, to fear herself, to believe she deserves every bad thing that happens to her. School, where the torture continues. If home is hell, school is just a different kind of torment. Carrie White is weird, not quirky weird, not interesting weird, the kind of weird that makes other teenagers recoil instinctively. She dresses in homemade clothes that look like they're from the 1950s because Margaret won't let her wear anything immodest. She doesn't understand pop culture references. She doesn't know how to talk to people. She flinches when someone moves quickly near her. She's the perfect victim, and high school teenagers can smell weakness like sharks smell blood. Chris Hargensen leads the pack. Chris is everything Carrie isn't: beautiful, popular, confident, cruel. She's the kind of girl who's never been denied anything, never faced real consequences, never had to consider that other people have feelings. And she decides, for reasons that are both random and inevitable, that Carrie White is the perfect target for her sadism. The bullying is constant, relentless, creative in its cruelty. They call her Creepy Carrie. They mock her clothes, her hair, her voice, the way she walks. They knock books out of her hands. They spread rumors. They make sure she eats lunch alone, sits alone, exists alone in the midst of hundreds of other students. But this daily torture is just the prelude, the appetizer before the main course of horror.
So, Carrie, standing naked in the shower, genuinely believes she's dying, bleeding to death, her body betraying her in the most terrifying way possible. She screams, panics, staggers out of the shower, blood running down her thighs, hands pressing between her legs trying to stop the flow, convinced she's experiencing some kind of fatal hemorrhage. And the other girls, they laugh. Not nervous laughter, not uncomfortable laughter, cruel, mocking, predatory laughter. Chris Hargensen sees an opportunity. This is too good, too perfect. Carrie White, naked and bleeding and terrified, is the ultimate spectacle. Chris starts the chant, "Plug it up! Plug it up!" The other girls join in, a chorus of mockery. They throw tampons at her, pads. They film it on their phones in the more modern adaptations. They turn a girl's first period, something that should be private, that should be met with understanding, into public theater. Miss Desjardins, the gym teacher, finally intervenes, dispersing the mob, wrapping Carrie in a towel, trying to explain what's happening. But the damage is done. Carrie has been violated in a way that goes beyond physical harm. Her body, already taught to be shameful by her mother, has betrayed her publicly. Her peers, instead of showing compassion, have proven they see her as less than human.
Something breaks in Carrie in that moment, but something else awakens. The power manifests. In her rage, her humiliation, her overwhelming emotional distress, something happens. A light bulb explodes, glass shatters, objects rattle. Telekinesis. Carrie White can move things with her mind, and that power is directly tied to her emotions, her stress, her survival instinct that's been pushed to its absolute limit. She's had this ability her whole life, probably, but it's been dormant, suppressed under layers of abuse and self-hatred. Now it's emerging, growing stronger, responding to the intensity of what she's experiencing. This power is significant in ways that go beyond the supernatural. For her entire life, Carrie has had zero control. Her mother controls her home life. Her bullies control her school life. Her body has just demonstrated it can betray her without warning. She is powerless, helpless, at the mercy of everyone and everything around her. Except now she has telekinesis, an ability that is uniquely hers, something no one can take away, the ultimate expression of agency in a life defined by having none. But it's a power born from trauma, fed by rage, sharpened by pain. And we all know how that story ends.
The kindness that kills. Sue Snell's guilt. After the shower incident, the school cracks down. Miss Desjardins, horrified by what happened, punishes the girls involved with detention and threatens to ban them from prom. Most of the girls accept their punishment with minimal fuss. Not Chris Hargensen. Chris's wealthy, entitled father threatens to sue the school. She refuses to accept consequences for her actions. She's banned from prom, and in her mind, this is the ultimate injustice. Her rage focuses not on her own choices, but on the person she blames for causing her punishment, Carrie White. Sue Snell takes a different path. Sue was part of the shower incident, part of the laughing mob, and unlike Chris, she feels genuine remorse. The guilt eats at her. She keeps seeing Carrie's terrified face, hearing her screams, remembering how it felt to be part of that cruelty. Sue wants to make amends. She wants to do something good, something kind, something that will help Carrie experience one moment of happiness. So she comes up with a plan. She'll have her boyfriend, Tommy Ross, ask Carrie to prom. Tommy is popular, handsome, a genuinely decent guy who plays on the baseball team and actually treats people with respect. If he takes Carrie to prom, maybe she can have one normal teenage experience. One night where she's not the freak, the outcast, the victim. One memory that isn't soaked in pain. It's a kind gesture. It's sincere. And it's going to lead directly to the worst night in Chamberlain High School's history. The invitation. When Tommy approaches Carrie and asks her to prom, she doesn't believe him. How could she? Her entire life has taught her that kindness is a lie, that people only pretend to be nice before they hurt you, that she doesn't deserve good things. "Is this a joke?" she asks, her voice small, waiting for the punchline. "No joke," Tommy says, and he means it. He's nervous, not because he's planning something cruel, but because he's aware of what people say about Carrie, and he's worried about being associated with her. But Sue asked him to do this, and he's a good enough person to follow through. Carrie wants to believe him so desperately. The hunger for acceptance, for normalcy, for one person to see her as human, it's overwhelming. She says yes, and in that moment, something dangerous blooms in her heart. Hope. Defying Margaret. Margaret, predictably, loses her mind when Carrie announces she's going to prom.
Prom is sin. Prom is where boys and girls engage in that kind of behavior. Prom is a breeding ground for lust and damnation. She tries to lock Carrie in the closet, tries to use scripture to beat Carrie into submission. But something has changed. Carrie has tasted possibility. She's felt the stirring of her own power, and for the first time in her life, she stands up to her mother. "I'm going, Mama." It's not shouted, it's quiet, firm, final. Margaret stares at her daughter as if seeing a stranger, and in a way, she is. The broken, compliant child she spent 16 years creating is beginning to crack apart, revealing something underneath that Margaret doesn't recognize and can't control. Carrie uses her telekinesis to help make her prom dress. She styles her hair. She looks in the mirror and sees for the first time not the ugly duckling her mother insists she is, but someone who might, just might, be pretty. When Tommy arrives to pick her up, in his suit with a corsage, treating her with genuine kindness, Carrie feels like Cinderella, like the universe has finally decided she deserves something good. Margaret watches from the window, her face a mask of religious fury and prophetic dread. She knows how this ends. She's always known. "They're all going to laugh at you," she hisses. But Carrie doesn't hear. She's already gone, stepping into what she believes will be the best night of her life.
The dream before the nightmare. Prom night. The gym is transformed. Decorations everywhere, music playing, couples dancing. The social hierarchy of high school on full display, with the popular kids owning the center of the room and everyone else orbiting around them. Tommy and Carrie arrive, and something unexpected happens. People are nice to her. Not everyone, not the whole school, but enough people that it feels real. They compliment her dress. They say she looks pretty. They make small talk. Some of it is performative. They know about Sue's plan. They know this is a good deed. But some of it is genuine. When you clean up the outcast and put her in a pretty dress, suddenly she becomes visible as a human being. Tommy is kind throughout. He makes her laugh. He introduces her to people. He dances with her, and he doesn't make it feel like charity. For a few hours, Carrie White gets to experience what it's like to be a normal teenage girl at her senior prom. And then they're announced as prom king and queen. The crowd erupts in applause. Tommy looks genuinely happy. Carrie is in shock, good shock, joyful shock. She walks up to the stage in a daze, barely able to process what's happening. They put a crown on her head, give her a bouquet of roses. The spotlight shines on her, and for one perfect, crystalline moment, Carrie White is not the victim. She's the princess. The whole school is on their feet, applauding, and Carrie feels tears in her eyes, tears of joy, of disbelief, of overwhelming gratitude that maybe, just maybe, her life can be different than she thought. She looks out at the crowd, smiling, her heart so full it might burst. She doesn't see Chris Hargensen and Billy Nolan in the rafters above the stage, doesn't see the rope in Chris's hands, doesn't see the bucket suspended above her head, a bucket filled with pig's blood, positioned perfectly, waiting for this exact moment. The rope pulls. Everything happens in slow motion and all at once. The rope pulls, the bucket
tips, and a waterfall of pig's blood cascades down, drenching Carrie from head to toe. It's in her hair, her eyes, her mouth. It soaks through her beautiful dress, turning it from pink to red. It pools at her feet. The metallic smell is overwhelming, nauseating. The music stops. Carrie stands frozen on stage, blood dripping from her crown, her flowers, her shaking hands. She looks exactly like her mother always warned her she would, covered in blood, marked by sin, a spectacle of shame. And then the laughter starts. Not everyone is laughing. Sue isn't there. Miss Desjardins made her stay away, worried about ulterior motives. Tommy isn't laughing. The bucket hit him in the head when it fell, and he's crumpled unconscious on the stage. Miss Desjardins isn't laughing. She's horrified, already moving toward the stage to help. But enough people are laughing. The sound builds, echoes, multiplies in Carrie's head until it's all she can hear. Pointing fingers, camera flashes, the ultimate humiliation captured for posterity, ready to be shared, mocked, immortalized. In that moment, every kind word from the evening evaporates. Every smile becomes retroactively a smirk. Every compliment becomes obvious sarcasm. It was all fake, all planned, all designed to build her up just high enough that the fall would destroy her completely. "They're all going to laugh at you," her mother's words echo in her head, and she was right. The burning. Rage incarnate. Something in Carrie's brain just stops. The part that feels fear, the part that feels hurt, the part that holds her back, it all shuts down, and what's left is pure, focused, apocalyptic rage. Her telekinetic power, which has been growing steadily, suddenly explodes outward with the force of a nuclear bomb. The gym doors slam shut. Every exit they seal with invisible force, trapping everyone inside. People run to the doors, pull at them, pound on them. Nothing. They're locked in with the monster they created. The fire hoses activate. Water sprays everywhere, mixing with the blood on the stage, creating a nightmarish flood on the gym floor. And then Carrie does something worse. The electrical systems. She can feel them in the walls, the circuits, the power running through the building. She reaches out with her mind and twists. Sparks fly, wires short out, electrical fire erupts throughout the gym. And then the real horror begins. Carrie stands on that stage, absolutely still, covered in blood, her eyes vacant and terrible, and she systematically murders her classmates. Bleachers collapse, the basketball hoop tears from the ceiling and swings like a pendulum, crushing anyone in its path. Electrical cables whip through the air like serpents, electrocuting anyone they touch. She doesn't distinguish between the guilty and the innocent, the bullies and the bystanders. In her mind, they're all complicit. Everyone who ever looked at her and did nothing. Everyone who let it happen. Everyone who benefited from a social system that required someone to be at the bottom so they could be higher up. They all burn. This isn't just revenge. This is annihilation. This is a girl who's been pushed so far beyond her breaking point that she's become something else entirely. Not human anymore. A force of nature. A goddess of wrath. The embodiment of every person who's ever been pushed too far. The gym becomes a slaughterhouse. Bodies everywhere. Fire spreading. People screaming, dying. Trapped like rats because Carrie won't let them leave. She wants them to feel what she felt, helpless, terrified, begging for mercy that doesn't come. And when she's done with the gym, she walks out into the town. The rampage. Chamberlain burns. Carrie walks through the streets, still dripping blood, and everything she looks at explodes or collapses or catches fire. Cars crash, gas stations ignite, buildings crumble. It's not strategic, it's not planned, it's just pure destruction radiating outward from a girl who's been pushed so far beyond her breaking point that she's become something else entirely. Not human anymore, a force of nature, a goddess of wrath, the embodiment of every person who's ever been pushed too far. And when she's done with the gym, she walks out into the town. The rampage. Chamberlain burns. Carrie walks through the streets, still dripping blood, and everything she looks at explodes or collapses or catches fire. Cars crash, gas stations ignite, buildings crumble. It's not strategic, it's not planned, it's just pure destruction radiating outward from a girl who's been pushed so far beyond her breaking point that she's become something else entirely. Not human anymore, a force of nature, a goddess of wrath, the embodiment of every person who's ever been pushed too far. And when she's done with the gym, she walks out into the town. The rampage. Chamberlain burns. Carrie walks through the streets, still dripping blood, and everything she looks at explodes or collapses or catches fire. Cars crash, gas stations ignite, buildings crumble. It's not strategic, it's not planned, it's just pure destruction radiating outward from a girl who's been pushed so far beyond her breaking point that she's become something else entirely. Not human anymore, a force of nature, a goddess of wrath, the embodiment of every person who's ever been pushed too far. And when she's done with the gym, she walks out into the town. The rampage. Chamberlain burns. Carrie walks through the streets, still dripping blood, and everything she looks at explodes or collapses or catches fire. Cars crash, gas stations ignite, buildings crumble. It's not strategic, it's not planned, it's just pure destruction radiating outward from a girl who's been pushed so far beyond her breaking point that she's become something else entirely. Not human anymore, a force of nature, a goddess of wrath, the embodiment of every person who's ever been pushed too far. And when she's done with the gym, she walks out into the town. The rampage. Chamberlain burns. Carrie walks through the streets.
The final confrontation. Mother and daughter. Margaret is waiting. Of course she is. She's been waiting for this since Carrie was born, since that moment of sin that created her daughter. She's been waiting for proof that Carrie is evil, that her abuse was justified, that her God was right to curse this child. And now, looking at Carrie covered in blood, eyes dead, the whole town burning behind her, Margaret believes she has that proof. "I should have killed you when you were born," Margaret says, her voice calm, almost loving. She's holding a kitchen knife. "I tried. God forgive me, I tried. But I was weak. I won't be weak again." She moves toward Carrie, genuinely believing she's doing God's work, cleansing the world of a demon, saving her daughter's soul by ending her corrupted life. For just a moment, Carrie is a child again, small, hurt, wanting her mother to love her. "Why couldn't you just love me, Mama?" she asks, and it's the saddest question in the world. Margaret doesn't answer with words. She answers with the knife, driving it into Carrie's shoulder. The last death. The pain brings Carrie back. The little girl disappears, and the monster returns. Her telekinetic power surges. Kitchen utensils fly from drawers and walls. Knives, forks, skewers. They hover in the air for a moment, then launch themselves at Margaret. She's pinned to the wall in a grotesque crucifixion, utensils piercing her body, holding her in place. But Carrie isn't done. She reaches into her mother's chest with invisible hands and stops her heart. Margaret White dies still believing she was righteous, still believing God was on her side. Carrie collapses, the knife wound bleeding, her power finally exhausted. She's dying, and she knows it. She pulls the house down on top of herself, not in rage, but in something like relief. It's over. The pain is over. The world that hurt her doesn't get to exist anymore. The house crumbles. Fire consumes everything. And Carrie White, the girl who just wanted to be normal, dies in the rubble of the prison that shaped her. Who are the real monsters? The question that haunts. In the aftermath, Chamberlain is devastated, dozens dead, the high school destroyed, survivors traumatized for life. Sue Snell, who wasn't even at the prom, lives with survivor's guilt and the knowledge that her kindness was the final piece in Carrie's destruction. So here's the question that Stephen King forces us to confront. Who is the monster in this story? Is it Carrie, who murdered innocent people, who burned down a town, who killed without mercy or discrimination? Or is it Margaret, who tortured her daughter for 16 years, who weaponized religion to destroy a child's spirit, who created the conditions for catastrophe? Or is it the bullies, Chris, Billy, and all the others who decided that cruelty was entertainment, that another person's pain was their amusement? Or is it the bystanders, the people who watched it happen and did nothing, the teachers who saw the bullying and looked away, the students who didn't participate but also didn't intervene, the entire system that required someone to be at the bottom so everyone else could feel superior? The answer, uncomfortable as it is all of them, and none of them, and especially all of them. The cycle of cruelty. Carrie White didn't wake up one morning and decide to be evil. Evil was done to her, day after day, year after year, until there was nothing left but rage and power and pain. She was beaten down by her mother, tortured by her peers, failed by every adult who should have protected her. The prom wasn't the cause, it was the last straw, the last cruelty in a lifetime of cruelties, the moment when the accumulated weight of abuse became too much to bear. This is what makes Carrie such a powerful and terrifying story. It asks us to look at the weird kids, the outcasts, the ones who don't fit in, and recognize that we have a choice. We can show kindness, compassion, basic human decency, or we can be Chris Hergensen, actively cruel. Or we can be the majority of students at Chamberlain High, passively complicit. And if we choose wrong, if we push someone too far, well, most people don't have telekinesis, but they have other ways of destroying things. School shootings, suicides, spirals of violence that ripple outward and hurt innocent people. Carrie is a horror story, yes, but it's also a warning. Stephen King's first published novel remains his most raw, his most angry, his most accusatory. He doesn't let us off the hook. He doesn't give us easy answers or simple morality. He shows us a good person driven to do monstrous things and forces us to acknowledge our role in creating monsters. Carrie White deserved better. She deserved a mother who loved her. She deserved classmates who treated her with basic kindness. She deserved adults who intervened. She deserved the chance to be a normal teenager with normal problems. Instead, she got abuse, mockery, betrayal, and pig's blood. And the world burned because of it. So let me ask you, who are the monsters in your life? Who are the people being pushed to their breaking point while everyone watches? And more importantly, are you showing them kindness or are you helping to load the bucket? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Was Carrie justified? Was there another way? How do we prevent creating more monsters? If this deep dive into one of horror's most tragic figures hit you hard, smash that like button and subscribe for more explorations into the stories that terrify and teach us. And if you're someone who feels like Carrie, isolated, abused, pushed to the edge, please reach out. Talk to someone. Call a helpline. You deserve better than what you've been given, and there are people who want to help. Until next time, remember, cruelty has consequences, kindness has power, and everyone you meet is fighting a battle you know nothing about. Choose wisely.